Hospitality brands are sitting on more guest data than ever before. Purchase history, preferences, behavioral patterns, all of it. And yet, most guests don't feel like anyone actually knows them. So what's the disconnect? Today, I'm bringing you a conversation from the Digital Transformation Summit that was held in Arlington, Texas last month. I sat down with Billy FisCher of Very Good Ventures to talk about where AI is actually headed in our industry. Not the hype, not the headlines, the real practical stuff that operators need to be thinking about right now. We get into why so many brands have built incredibly powerful data systems that still haven't translated into meaningful guest experiences. We talk generative AI, changing customer expectations, and honestly, one of the questions I think a lot of people in our industry are afraid to ask out loud is AI going to replace hospitality jobs? Billy's got grounded, thoughtful answers to all of it. This episode of Check In with Bryan is brought to you by Reliance Hospitality. Hospitality consulting, project management, and business process outsourcing, built exclusively for the owner's side of the table. PIPs, renovations, budgets, brand compliance, we manage it all so you don't have to. Learn more at reliancehospitality.com. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Check In with Bryan. I'm your host, Bryan Fish, and we are still coming to you this week from the Digital Transformation in Hospitality Summit here in Arlington, Texas, at the Lowe's Hotel, put on by our friends over at Industry Now. Now, day one, we had a keynote address that was given by a gentleman that totally nailed it for me. AI is the number one topic in our business right now, and this guy put one slide up on the screen, and I was like, this is the guy I got to talk to. And I sent Tyler out. He was able to get the interview, which I was very happy about. But the slide was about all the data that exists out in the data warehouse. And on the other side was our PMS, CRM systems, and how that data never gets from point A to point B. And he was explaining how AI can help in this process. So he's amazing, and I think all of you are going to love this interview with him. It's Billy FisCher from Very Good Ventures. Billy's the Executive Vice President of Business Development at VGV, Very Good Ventures, the leading Flutter and digital application development consultancy. So he delivered the keynote that absolutely I loved. It was, honestly, I think it's the best keynote of the event. But Billy's got a decade of leadership. Well, over a decade, but he's not that old. Over a decade of leadership in digital product consulting. Billy's helped some of the biggest brands in entertainment, travel, and hospitality harness technology to drive revenue and exceed customer expectations. Now, VGV works with some of the world's most innovative companies, including Universal Destinations and Experiences, Hamilton on Broadway, JSX, and Trackhouse Racing, building high-performance digital experiences powered by Flutter and AI. Side note, Flutter is a application platform that they can build the app and then they port it to other systems. Thought you'd be interested in that. Billy holds a degree in communication arts with a focus on public relations from Ohio Northern University, and he's currently based in Columbus, Ohio. And great guy. This interview, I think, is one of my favorite that we've done in a while. And we dig into where AI is going in the business, how it affects people, if it is going to affect jobs, and he's just a downright nice guy, and we talk a little bit about his passion for equestrian. It's a very interesting conversation, but you're going to love it. I know you will. And when we come back after this break, we will sit down with Billy. Welcome back, everyone. And I'm here with Billy FisCher from Very Good Ventures. It's very nice to meet you in person. I got to check you out yesterday, giving a keynote here at the Digital Transformation Summit in Arlington, Texas. How have you enjoyed the show so far?
It's been great. It's my first time at this show, and had the chance to meet some new faces and also expand. When you think of hospitality, it's always the hotel industry, but meeting the folks at KOA and Aramark and hearing about all the different things.
KOA, it's so funny. Yeah. We were at a table at lunch yesterday, and there was somebody that was very excited about KOA, and I'm like, who knew?
Yeah,
camping was going to be
exactly. Yeah, the hospitality industry is wider than I think we sometimes think.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, before we get into all the detail of AI and digital transformation, outside of the world of tech and digital product development, what's something you're really passionate about personally right now?
Yeah, outside of tech, my wife and I are into horses, and so we rescue horses. And we do a lot of work in the equine therapy world where horses are a magical animal, and people that have gone through trauma and autistic challenges. Horses can do a lot of amazing things there. So yeah, so that's
similar to
like
it's sort of like a emotional support animal.
Yeah. You know, horse can feel your heartbeat from over 10 feet away, and so it's a really amazing animal that can read you, but then can also help regulate a lot of challenges.
I may have to come to Ohio because I rode a horse once. I had a SVP of a company I was working for take us out horseback riding because she was really big into horses. It was the best Sunday afternoon I ever spent in my life, and then I've never gone again. But I always tell everybody it was like the best relaxing thing I ever did.
What I tell people is you don't have to actually ride a horse to even enjoy it, because a lot of people are scared, and so we'll get people doing like groundwork and things with a horse, and it'll be a really important moment for them.
10 feet away.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
That is wild. That's why I never knew that. I mean, I know dogs usually because that's why they sleep so close to you, because they can the breathing and stuff.
We like dogs too, but horses are definitely a passion of ours.
That's wild. I mean, you think about it, it's a large animal.
Yeah,
they've got a lot of senses.
No doubt about it.
Wow. Well, yesterday you gave a keynote address on the first day of the conference that really spoke to me. We chatted a little bit before we started filming that, right now in the whole world of tech and AI, hospitality is really, I look at it from, I remember back when we were using terminal systems and like Encore with Holiday Inn and some of those other ancient systems some are still actually running today.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the way that things have changed since 2000 really to where we're at now in 2026, I guess now I'm starting to be that guy that 20 years ago, 20 years ago, 20 years ago when I started, 25 years ago when I started in the business, it looks so different from a technical standpoint.
Oh yeah.
Just because 100%. We have so much available to us now that we never would have thought to have, or that we would have ever been able to afford to have. And one thing you said yesterday that I just want to dive right into this morning is we have all this data out there, and you had a great graphic of all this demographic data and information about your guest on the left side. Yeah. And then the system or the CRM or the PMS, I think I was on the right hand side, and the fact that the data never makes its way across. And it really was speaking to me from the fact that, one thing since the pandemic, we've really lost in hospitality, the personalization effort.
Yeah.
We're not making the effort to personalize the guest stay anymore in a world where travelers right now want as many experiential things as possible. Like it seems like we would be more focused because we can do more research on people now than we ever could have.
Right.
So I guess number one, you're probably just a genius, so that's how you came up with that.
Sure.
But I'm sure there's a technical thing that you see in like actual practice that causes this, and it really got me all day yesterday. I kept thinking about the fact, I'm like, no, this is absolutely, we have more data warehouse now than we ever have. Yeah. Yet we're just not using it right.
Yeah, I mean, the organizations from big to mid-size, the small independents probably they have different challenges, have spent millions of dollars building up data warehouse solutions, customer data platforms. I mean, we've established all of that, and it's been something we've been talking about. So many of these organizations have like a F1 engine that they've developed that's pulling in all sorts of data, and a lot of organizations are still taking that Formula One engine that they've built and placing it in a minivan, and then feeling like, okay, they're feeling good about themselves. And it's one of the reasons why I'm excited about AI, because as much as I'm throwing out this analogy that sounds super easy, you've got all this data, just deliver it to the customer. It is hard, to take. A lot of organizations have bought these big clunky systems that make all these big promises, harness your data, deliver it in one way. But to do it at scale is actually really difficult.
Did you find that when those big clunky systems, I'm just curious, are a lot of those legacy systems that those vendors are trying to keep up, and so they're saying, oh, it's going to do this, but the system just keeps getting bigger and bigger and not easier to handle.
And they're not, some of them aren't even archaic. Some of these are I'm not going to name shout any of them, but they provide big promises, and then to actually do it, though, is really difficult. And so you get caught up in a sales cycle where it's like, hey, we've got the solution. You're going to be able to pull in your data, deliver it to the customer across web, mobile, in screen in the room. And when it actually gets to the tactical part of doing that, it's very difficult, and distraction hits. It's always more expensive.
Because everybody always forgets the rollout. right?
Right.
That's
Right.
I always feel like, even with like, because we do like consulting on the construction side for hotels too.
Yeah.
And it surprises me, like, guys go to develop a hotel and then they completely forget you have to build the damn thing.
Correct.
And there's a whole process, and then it has to open.
Right. I've
I
used
had
that
somebody look at me
analogy.
once and said, "Why do I have to budget for like supplies when the hotel's opening?" Yes,
Yeah.
like literally
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I've actually used that in like customer data platform projects, which is like a strong foundational element to doing, building up your data strategy. I've had the client ask me like, what's the ROI in the first 3 months once we do while we're building the CDP, the customer data platform? Like, zero. It's like building a hotel.
Yeah.
You're going to be investing all of this money and building that up, and you're not really going to see anything for it. And so a lot of these strategies are kind of a long game type of strategy. You build the system and then you start to roll it out. And I think I've not seen very many organizations actually get that right over the long haul. And I think to your point of what my slide, I think that's being felt on the customer side. So all these brands have all of this data. I mean, I'm a loyal Delta guy, a loyal Hilton guy, and this experience has been the same for me for the last 5 to 10 years, where there's no personalization in there. They know so much about me. And the closest to personalization that it feels is, this isn't a digital personalization, but like the Delta flight attendant will like walk down the aisle and read on a note, like, "Thank you, Billy, for being a platinum medallion." Right. It's like, well, that actually doesn't feel very personalized anymore. That was cute.
You're literally checking a box off the list.
Yeah.
It's like they said, you need to go thank these people, and here's their lists.
But they have all of this data about where I'm traveling. They could probably figure out if it's a business trip or not.
Right. They probably know what your wife's name is. You've probably traveled.
No doubt about it. Because they have access to my Amex as well. They know how many Delta Sky Club passes I have left to help me optimize when to use it versus when to not use it.
They know the restaurants you eat at a lot.
Yeah.
They could send you a gift card.
Yep. And so there's
Delta,
endless opportunities. But it's like a static, still you log in, it's a static menu.
Right.
And if I sat next to you or someone else that's a Delta user, all of our experiences would look identical. And it's not terrible, but it's certainly not the vision that we've all talked about at these conferences 20 years ago.
No, and I feel like the last couple of years, especially, AI has been this, everything is AI. Mm-hmm. And I caution a lot of people, and I'm sure you run into this in your line of work. There's so much now where everyone's just sticking AI on, like, powered by AI, powered by this.
Right. And it's a bit of a scramble.
It's a scramble. And then is it actually AI, or did they just rebrand what they were already doing? Right. Because a lot of people were using machine learning models before, where it's, it's been programmed to kind of respond based on what you're being asked, but it can't generate an answer to anything.
Right.
And it just boggles my mind that, because those large companies like Delta, Hilton, Marriott, IHG, like, I think we can talk about all of them. Mm-hmm. They all suffer, I think, from the same thing. Like, you have the massive data warehouse, but you aren't doing anything to pull together. And I love your minivan example, because it's just totally what it feels like on the operator side. Yeah. It's like, why don't we have an ability to do this? And I know part of it's cost, because the owners of these assets have to fund.
You have franchise models get in the way. There's all these.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and I do wonder. We actually have an attorney down in Houston that we've had on the podcast before, Stephen Barth, and he goes by the Hospitality Lawyer.
Okay,
as his brand. We're gonna have to have him on probably soon to have a conversation, because I do wonder legally if those large companies, that the franchisors, if that's because that's usually where I feel like they start to draw red lines.
Breakdown. Yeah.
Is they're like, am I gonna get sued?
Yeah.
And so they don't want to go too overboard by sharing the information, because they do lose a modicum of control once it's open up to the franchise community, right? But they're not even doing it in the managed side. Yeah. So
interesting.
But I'm like, if one company, and I honestly think if any company does it, it'll surprise you. I think Hyatt could be somebody that all of a sudden comes out, because Hyatt, I always feel like, rises out of the ashes.
Yeah, and maybe like it's that perfect size where they're not so
large.
That,
and it's luxury mostly.
Yeah.
So it's that client base that would appreciate it more. No, like, we have all these systems. So it's like, if you've had an issue at the last 3 hotels you're at, there should be something to say, hey, like, this guy's having an issue at our hotel. So it flags something at the brand level to say, let's do something to try to recover from this.
Well, what will be interesting over the next year or two is expectations. And I think customer expectations do tend to, there's a couple things that drive innovation in digital. Customer expectations is one of them, and certainly ROI and business case development is another one that is probably the number one that driver. And I think as more folks are using like real generative AIs, like everybody is poking around with ChatGPT now.
Right.
Not everybody, but it's a rising environment, and everybody's starting, as they get more comfortable, starting to experience like how much the agent will start to know them.
Right.
You've seen these prompts of like people are having fun, like, hey, ChatGPT, based on everything you know about me, write a paragraph bio for me. And
I haven't done that yet because I don't want to know.
Yeah, or you'll say like, hey, crank out a picture of what you think my life is like. And it's always like almost startling. Wow, it knows me.
Yeah.
And so that's going to change customer expectations of like what their experience and interacting in a digital environment. Like this agent knows my preferences, who I am, and some brands are going to lead the way and start to deliver on that same type of personal experience on the digital front. And it's just going to change expectations across the entire ecosystem. Right. We've seen that in many industries where, Chick-fil-A did that in the food service space where, online ordering was slightly available, but then all of a sudden they were the first ones to do pickup ability to where you could order ahead on the mobile app, pull into a parking spot, and some person runs it out to you. And nobody had really done that at the time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, customers expect that. Like if Chick-fil-A can do it, why can't McDonald's?
And actually, I will tell you, Chick-fil-A, that's so funny. I never actually thought about it, but I will go there for breakfast every once in a while. They're way too happy in the morning. I always hate that with the food's not ready and then they want to talk to you. It's like, I don't want to talk to you. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. We are not happy. Their like online ordering system I actually really do like because I'll place the order at my house. It like tracks my location.
Yeah.
And then it'll like then sends me a message when I'm almost there saying that they've already like sent it to the kitchen to like prepare. Yeah. And then they just built a new one near us, or they renovate. I love how they renovate anymore. They just tear it down.
Yeah.
They're like, we're just going to tear it down.
Yeah.
Kind of like McDonald's did a while. They're just like, we're going to tear it down and build this massive drive-through. Yeah. But now you go up and you, at one location in Phoenix, you scan a QR code.
Yeah.
And then you just keep going. But the new one I went to, I think it's the one downtown Phoenix. I think that's the one. It like used the location since I had shared it. I didn't even have to scan the QR code. It was like, oh, we see you're here. Go ahead and pull forward.
Yeah, so there's mapping technology on the back end that knows that you're pulled into the parking lot.
And it makes it so seamless.
Yeah.
You're not giving somebody a code and
and that's kind of like that's like a level up expectation. And somebody, maybe it's Hyatt, it's going to start to leverage AI to deploy true personalization, where you maybe check in, you book a hotel on the website, a room on the website, you check in via the mobile app, you walk into the room, maybe you check in on a kiosk when you first, to get your key when you walk into the lobby, and then you walk up and there's an experience on the screen, or maybe even an experience on the window that's displayed digitally, and it all feels exactly the same. Like the same designer handcrafted it with a consistent element. Not many hotels have that feel because there's different systems on the back end, which again, the customer could care less about.
Yeah.
But we put that burden on the customer all the time. And so we think that AI is going to provide the opportunity to actually deliver on that, where there's all these constraints. And as development gets easier and more efficient, and as access to these AI models continues to open up, there's going to be some really cool innovation. I think we're about to hit another level up, because really across QSR, hospitality, entertainment, the digital experience has gotten pretty stale. Same.
It's the sea of sameness now, kind of like the buildings have gotten to.
Yep.
So does the AI engine, do you see them really acting as the bridge essentially to move the information from system to system and then actually execute on it? Or will we still have to see the systems kind of figure out how to, transport the data from point A to point B? Or is there AI processes that essentially will be doing that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some foundational elements that a lot of these organizations that we're talking about have invested a lot of money in. So a lot of structured data And we think that organizations should be putting a lot of time into design style systems, really strong digital design systems. So if you're going to give AI the ability to manipulate the user experience, well, you better have some guardrails defined of like what really solid on-brand design looks like and feels like. And so if you train the models on that, it starts to open up. So I think a solid data foundation is really, really important. Most of these big organizations that I've talked to, they have that in place. They've invested a ton of money in that. So,
which is good because they know it's coming. They know these things are coming, so they're at least laying the groundwork for it.
And some of our clients have already taken that first step where they start to deploy agents and they're like testing the waters a little bit. But the experience is fairly underwhelming. It's nowhere close to that like level up experience that I keep talking about. So from an AI and the models standpoint, we're trying to advise clients to not get too bogged down and worried about that at the moment. One, because it will just frustrate you because we're in that period where every 3 to 6 months, there's just a complete change and shift and I hit on this yesterday, where I've heard some people just like, I'm just going to like wait it out. And that's a scary endeavor, especially if you're a big brand, to just kind of wait and see. And we all know this, every technology has been this way, where like people were skeptical about cloud adoption until all of a sudden they weren't.
It was amazing to me, at least in the hospitality space and the hotel brands specifically, that were still, up until the pandemic, were guarding access to the systems and the PMS off property like it was gold. And it is in a way. But then all of a sudden, overnight, when the world kind of forced us to change, it was like, oh, we're going to have to give remote access to all this stuff. And then and now you have conversations with the same people and they're like, well, if it's not cloud-based, then we can't even look at it. It's like, well, 5 years ago, you had a completely different opinion.
Continuing to like observe and watch these models, and even an organization can adopt one at the moment to invest in. I think I showed an architecture diagram to where we've tried to build this to where if you needed to leverage one model for one thing or in another model for another element, you could do that. Or maybe Gemini comes out with something amazing and you can plug that in. So
because each model's got its sweet spot, right? In terms of what it does really well.
Right. And I mean, I was about to say I'm not an expert on models, but who is at this point? And so we're all trying to keep up and pace ourselves but it's what the innovation that we've seen in the last year is quite striking and remarkable. And so we're starting to GenUI, which I talked about yesterday, starting to really believe the vision we've been feeling this happening, and now it's starting to become truly real, where it's like, okay, we can actually start to let AI manipulate the user interface, to leverage the data, manipulate the interface to create a true one-to-one experience.
And now, other than Chick-fil-A, is there anybody in the hospitality, QSR, any vertical really, that you feel like they're leveraging it far ahead of where you would expect them to be right now?
I think, and that's what's interesting is like, this used to be a fun question to ask people, like, what's your favorite digital experience? Something that really sets it apart. And like, everybody used to say Starbucks or Apple and everything. And it's almost, I don't know, in my opinion, it's gotten kind of boring lately.
Well, it all works the same. There's no difference.
Yeah, exactly.
And even online shopping, I mean, even at the basic level, online shopping's gotten very much the same because most use like Shopify, or they're using like that Affirm's been big on building out their Shop Pay. So like they're all using the same back end system.
And that's kind of convenient, right? There's like a nice familiar thing. But what we've seen from an AI standpoint over the last year and a half is just a lot of these agents that are kind of underwhelming. And I think what we see on the client side is these are just part of AI like innovation budgets that are just being tested. However, I would predict over the next year, we're going to start to see like real valuable tools start to roll out because the models are getting really good. Executive sponsorship of these activities is now universal. I've not talked to a single brand where they haven't said some version of like, our executive team is all in on AI.
Which I think it also shows the executive teams have changed. Like the reins have changed in a lot of ways, especially since the pandemic. So the good news, I think, for the industry is we have key players in those positions now that actually have lived in the digital space and understand at the base level what is happening.
Yeah.
Whereas I do feel like even if we go back 7-8 years ago, that was not the case.
No doubt about it. So I think everybody's behind this now. There is an element of efficiency, and that's a whole separate conversation that we can have. But like, I'm really excited about what it's going to do for the front end customer experience.
Right. No, and exactly, and that kind of takes me to my next question. So if you're a hospitality operator right now, and your mouth is watering over AI, and you aren't doing anything right now, and I guess this would be a two-parter because it's either because you're kind of locked down if you're in a franchise system of some sort, be it at a restaurant or a hotel, versus an independent company. But where would you say, if they want to do something and leverage AI right now, where would you say put your time and resources into it now, or would you say just wait?
Yeah. So for like a brand, we can kind of talk about both of those a little bit. So for a brand, and I mentioned this yesterday, I would encourage a brand to pick up a flow, an experience. And so maybe that's a check-in experience. Maybe that's a pre-booking kind of trip planner. That's everybody's favorite example to use. Maybe it's a concierge kind of experience. Just pick a flow, and ideally pick one there's some friction or it's super stale. And I think that's where you can start to build out a test, whether you leverage your internal team or a consulting firm to like build out a POC that you can actually like get in the hands of customers. The best part about AI is these things that used to take 6 months, heck, not to be extreme, but we could probably build a POC that we could play around with like in the next hour here. Now, it wouldn't be hooked up to any data. It wouldn't really be real, but I would build a somewhat real POC that you could start to get in the hands of customers. And
you're saying like it used to be like it could take 6 months to just get the proof of concept.
Yeah, for sure. And so with some of these tools, again, how real is it is a big question, but still, we could have some conceptual ideas that we start testing very quickly. I would start with a little bit of like a workshop to figure out, okay, where are there big friction points? Like, what's the most frustrating element of our experience for our guest? And start to build out and test like a prototype of what could be, and keep it simple. Because I think going with like our whole experience, or from end to end, from pre-book to after visit, that's just going to get really overwhelming.
It's too big of a net to cast.
And I would avoid falling into the trap of like just the classic agent of like, let's just get I
always love the people that put the agent out because they just are told, somebody told them you need one.
Yeah, I mean, there was endless consulting firms selling agents and models and that sort of thing. We like to take a little bit more of a strategic approach to it. What are we actually trying to accomplish, and what would move the needle here? And so that would be one area. For the small independent guys, I got a lot of those questions yesterday, and I honestly, I wasn't ready for it. I was not expecting that. If you're part of a franchise system, I think that is where there's kind of two opportunities. And I was talking to the CFO of a franchise group yesterday, and he had not really played with AI at all. And I was mentioning like,
can you please pass my information to him? I'll be more than happy to provide him consulting service, because because where AI has, I feel like, done well in our sector is our vendor partners on the finance side. So like we offer business process outsourcing for accounting. Well, the only way we really could do it successfully is by using AI tools. But to your point, I have seen the companies that have had success are the ones that didn't try to like automate 1,000 things. They took the pain points, so like invoice entry and stuff like that, to make it smooth.
Yeah, so I was encouraging him, like, dude, you need to like start playing with this right away, and experimenting, and hire a consultant to do some AI training, some AI workshops, and I encourage them, get your entire executive team just curious about this. Because it's hard to know how you might leverage it or what you might do if you're not touching it in some way.
And this is something I do want to make sure that we cover before we go, because this is something that's a big conversation. And we had this conversation I would say this was the big talk 6 years ago. when the mobile apps with all the hotels started rolling out. Even I think the airlines face this as well, as, oh my God, all the front end customer service people are going to get replaced because of the app and this and that. And so now there's this big fear in the world that AI is essentially going to replace a lot of these human roles. Number one, do you actually think that's going to happen? And number two, do you feel like there's a risk that we could potentially over rely on AI, or do you feel like the workforce is going to kind of mold to like we did with everything else, where it's just part of it's another tool in the box?
Yeah, interesting conversation, challenging one. I think from a people replacement, it varies so much by industry and like role type and that sort of thing. So it's hard to give like a blanketed answer to that. I think the human element of customer service is going to be late to be disrupted. It's going to take a while, and who knows? That's a crystal ball. But in the short term, I don't think so. A lot of people I talked to over the last couple of days have talked about how strapped they are, how lean. They're overwhelmed by the amount of things they need to do, get accomplished. I do think that is where, instead of needing to hire an additional 10 folks or try to get headcount approval, AI could possibly provide provide some assistance. The part I'm most nervous about or personally worried about is apprenticeship and what apprenticeship looks like in certain industries. Finance is a perfect one where the way to learn, the CFO I was talking to yesterday, I'm sure he started his career as an apprentice, getting beat up doing spreadsheet work. And that is where AI probably eliminates the need for that role. So how do we bring up young talent is, I think, a real problem that is going to be tricky. But the frontline staff, I think I don't have I've not seen a lot of proof and data points that say we're anywhere close to.
And we haven't seen it with like the mobile apps that rolled out with digital check-in and everything. I know like people in Hilton, because Hilton was first to the game with digital key, and everyone's like, oh, that's going to replace the front desk. And my take, which I've been correct on this as of yet, and I think it's going to continue this way, is our front office, you might have had 30 people at a large hotel. Maybe you're going to have 15 moving forward. But the reality, the function of that desk will change a little bit, where just like a PBX operator in a large hotel kind of went from being the phone operator to like the digital chat person that's fielding the same types of information, just in a different way. But also there is a divide about consumers that actually know how to use and can adapt to the technology. And so then the front office kind of becomes the tech support desk as well. And we saw the same thing back in, I remember at the Holiday Inn in Columbus, Indiana in 2003, 2004, when Wi-Fi was out and you'd have to be giving out those stupid wireless bridges and trying to teach people, you need to plug this into your network port on your computer. Well, what's that? Can you bring it down to me? And the computer looked so big, you thought they brought their desktop with them.
Right. Now, to your point about over relying on AI, sure. I mean, we're so early at the moment. It's like very speculative. What I have found is folks that are, when I see people starting to work with, particularly the Claude and ChatGPT, the agents, the people that are over relying on it and are typically getting bad responses back, and they get it's kind of like junk in, junk out.
Right.
And so the people that I've seen
garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, exactly. It's so I think it actually using your strategic brain to manipulate or generate the results that you actually can be helpful. Is still requires a senior level expertise. Long term, I have no idea.
And none of us really do, honestly.
Exactly.
I mean, it would be, if you'll make a lot of money.
Exactly.
Well, Billy, I appreciate you sitting down with me this morning. I know you've been running around like crazy, and I know you've got more to go to today. But if somebody wants to check out, I guess let's do two plugs here. If anyone wants to check out VGV, Very Good Ventures, or get in direct contact with you, how do they find you, sir?
Yeah, so we're at Very Good Ventures. We've got a unicorn logo, and we do have on our website a Gen UI. I talked a lot about that yesterday. Assessment. So it's like a quiz that you can take to.
Is it a play on the word genuine?
I don't think so. No. There's a lot of people that old '90s R&B singer Genuine is another not a play on it. It is, but generative UI in terms of the user interface is really what it's a play on. And then also on LinkedIn, Billy FisCher, FisCher with a C is usually where spend most of my professional time.
Perfect. And then after this conference, where's your next stop?
Yeah, I mentioned to you, I can't even remember the name of the conference. I'm at a digital travel conference in San Diego here in 3 weeks, and actually going to be presenting with our partners at Norwegian Cruise Line. So we're excited about that.
I don't know why I don't know about this conference. I should probably find out why I don't have an invite.
And then I've got a vacation coming up to Cabo, so I'm really excited about that. So
go to Javier's while you're down there. All right, please go to Javier's. Well, Billy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your day. And I can't wait to see where this takes us.
Yep, same. So, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. See, I told you would love Billy. And the equestrian thing, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. 10 feet away, the horse, I can't get over it. But just an amazing guy, very intelligent, very smart. I loved all of his points that he made about AI. You know, he was absolutely right too. Like I probably eat at Chick-fil-A too much, and they really did nail the ordering experience. And it's interesting to see how all these things evolve and kind of where we're at. But I think he gave some great advice in terms of how we can evaluate certain things, where we should get started if we're thinking about using AI. And, you know, that whole idea that we can get to a proof of concept in an hour versus 6 months in the past changes the game. So, which obviously is why we're seeing so many things get rolled out in our industry right now that are really helping fine tune, especially in the back office, but to see how it will affect us on the front end and actually be able to personalize guest experiences more in the future is where I feel like we definitely need to go. So, and I'm sure most of you would agree with that as well. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Check In with Bryan is a production of RH Media Productions, executive produced by Tyler Alexander. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the positions of Reliance Hospitality Global Limited Co., its affiliates, or subsidiaries. All content is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as professional legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a qualified professional before making decisions regarding your business.